In 1983, a woman named Chen Shuying woke up at 4 odd in the morning in a two-room apartment in Wuhan and fed 5 people on a pot of rice congee, a handful of dried peanuts, and yesterday's music pickled mustard greens. Her husband was already dressed for the factory. The children were still half asleep at the table. That breakfast cost less than 2 fen. It kept them working and studying until noon. That breakfast is number 8 on this list. Number 3 has not appeared on a single restaurant menu in 40 years. Number 1 kept coal miners alive through winter shifts in the mountains of Shanxi province. Hi, my name is Jason, music, and this is Lost Asian Foods. Here is what people do not understand about breakfast music in the 1980s in China. There was no brunch, there was no leisurely coffee, there was a pot on the stove, a bowl in your hand, and a shift that started at 6 hours in the morning. The meals on this list were engineered for one thing. Number 25, baizhou, plain rice congee, a pot of water, a handful of rice, heat, and time. That was the whole recipe. Music. The rice broke down slowly over an hour into something thick and white and warm that coated your stomach like nothing else could. No seasoning required, though a pinch of salt never hurt anyone. In Guangdong province, grandmothers started the congee pot the night before on a low flame, and music let it cook while the family slept. By 4 hours in the morning, the pot was ready. Music workers in the Pearl River Delta ate baizhou before cycling to the textile mills. It cost almost nothing. A kilogram of rice could produce a week of breakfasts. Plain congee gets dismissed today as hospital music food, sick people food. But the workers who ate it every morning were not sick. They were building the foundations of a country. Do not disrespect the plain congee. Number 24, youtiao with soy milk, fried dough with fresh doujiang. The youtiao vendor was on the corner at 5 in the morning. He was always there. You could hear the oil from half a block away, that deep sizzle of raw dough hitting a hot wok, 2 long golden sticks of music fried dough for a few fen, a cup of fresh warm soy milk on the side. You dunked the youtiao into the doujiang, music, and ate it standing at the cart because there was nowhere to sit and no time anyway. In Shanghai and Nanjing and 100 other cities, this was the assembly line workers' breakfast, fast, cheap, filling, music. The youtiao man knew every regular customer by face. He knew who took sweet soy milk and who took salty. That vendor knew more about his neighborhood than any newspaper. Today, most youtiao comes from a factory bag reheated in a microwave. I will not comment on that. I do not have to. Number 23, jiandujiang, savory soy music milk. This one confuses people who grew up on the sweet version. Hot, fresh doujiang music was poured over a bowl that already had dried shrimp, a splash of black vinegar, a drizzle of chili oil, and a torn piece of youtiao. The vinegar curdled the hot soy milk slightly into soft, silken threads. That curdled texture was not an accident. That was the point. In Suzhou and Yangzhou in the 1980s, music jiandujiang was the preferred breakfast of older factory workers, music, who said the sweet version was for children. They were not entirely wrong. A bowl cost about 5 fen. The umami from the dried shrimp music hit your palate before you were fully awake. It was a complete breakfast music in a single bowl. This version is nearly extinct outside of a handful of old neighborhoods in Jiangsu province. Music. If you have never had jiandujiang, you have never had the real breakfast of Eastern China. Number 22, mantu with fermented tofu, steamed bun with nanfu. Mantu are plain steamed buns, no filling, music, just flour, water, and yeast steamed until they puffed up white and soft. By themselves, they are mild, almost to the point of blandness. But that was never how workers ate them. They ate them with nanfu, fermented tofu, music, small cubes of tofu cured in a ceramic jar with salt, alcohol, and sometimes chili until they turned creamy, pungent, and intensely flavored. One small cube spread across a torn piece of mantu, and you had something that tasted like it cost 10 times what it did. In Hunan, music, and Sichuan households in the 1980s, a jar of nanfu sat on the kitchen shelf and lasted for weeks. One jar, one bag of flour, that was breakfast for a family of 4 for the price of almost nothing. Fermented tofu has a smell that music clears the room. The workers who ate it every morning did not care. They had a shift to get to. Number 21, Zhou with thousand-year egg and pork, congee with century egg and pork, pidan shou zhou. This is the dressed-up version of plain congee. Same base, same pot, same slow cooking. Into the pot went slices of marinated pork and pieces of pidan, the century egg. The egg can look alarming if you have never seen one before. Dark, translucent green inside, sulfuric, intensely savory, with a flavor that has no real equivalent in any other food. Workers in Guangzhou and in factory towns near Hong Kong ate pidan shou zhou when they could afford the extra ingredient. The pork added protein. The egg added depth. The whole bowl cost maybe 15 fen more than plain congee. That 15 fen was the difference between surviving the morning and actually feeling human during it. This congee still exists in Cantonese restaurants, but nobody makes it at home anymore before 5 in the morning. Nobody has that kind of time or that kind of patience, music, or that kind of pot. Number 20, da bing, flatbread cooked on a griddle, round, sesame-covered, slightly crispy on the outside, soft in the middle. The da bing vendor in Beijing and Tianjin neighborhoods showed up with a cylindrical clay oven strapped to a cart. He slapped the raw dough onto the inside wall of the oven and it baked from the inside out. In 5 minutes, a single flatbread the size of your face was done. Workers tore pieces off on the walk to the bus stop. The sesame seeds toasted against the oven wall and released an oil that made the whole street smell like something worth stopping for. A single da bing cost 3 fen in 1980 and fed one person through a 4-hour shift. The clay oven carts are gone. Electric griddles make a version of da bing now that is technically the same and somehow entirely different. The heat source matters. That is not a metaphor. That is just physics. Number 19, Heizhou, lotus leaf congee. In the summer months, when the heat in southern China made eating anything feel impossible, families made heizhou, plain rice congee with a fresh lotus leaf laid over the pot during the final minutes of cooking. The steam forced the grassy, faintly floral scent of the lotus leaf into the congee until the whole pot smelled like the edge of a pond on a clean summer morning. Sometimes a few wolfberries went in, sometimes a little rock sugar. Farmers in the Pearl River Delta made this during the June harvest when they were in the fields before sunrise, music, and needed something that would cool the body from the inside. You rarely find this dish anywhere now. The lotus leaves still exist. The congee still exist. The combination has almost completely disappeared because nobody has a lotus pond in their backyard anymore, and the package substitute does not work the same way. Some recipes require geography. Number 18, Si Fan Tuan, sticky rice roll. A fistful of glutinous rice pressed around a piece of youtiao, a smear of sweet bean paste, and a sprinkle of pork floss. The whole thing wrapped tight in your palm, formed into a cylinder, and handed to you in a piece of paper. That was Si Music Fan Tuan. Workers in Shanghai bought these from women who set up folding tables at transit stops before the first bus ran. The rice had to be warm or the whole thing fell apart. Cold Si Fan Tuan is just rice falling on your shoes. The women who made these started cooking the glutinous rice at 3 dar in the morning. They were sold out by 7. If you were late, you got plain youtiao and disappointment. Shanghai still has Si Fan Tuan, but the women with the folding tables at the bus stops are mostly gone. A version now exists in convenience stores in vacuum-sealed plastic, the ghost music of a great breakfast haunting a refrigerated shelf. Number 17, Tang Hulu made at home, candied hawthorn on a stick. You know tanghulu from street fairs, bright red hawthorns on a bamboo skewer dipped in hard sugar syrup that cracked when you bit it. What you might not know is that in the 1980s, northern Chinese families made these at home in winter as a fast morning music snack for children going to school. The hawthorn fruit was tart and cut through the sweetness of the sugar coating. It woke you up faster than anything else on this list. In Beijing and Hebei province, a bunch of hawthorn cost a few fen at the market in October. Mothers made enough for the whole week. Children carried them in their coat pockets, the sugar sometimes melting, music slightly from the body heat and sticking to everything. Tanghulu has survived as street food. The home version made on a Tuesday morning before school, music, and pulled from a jar on the kitchen shelf is completely gone. Number 16, Lao Hukai, tiger vegetable music salad for breakfast. Here is one that surprises people. In northeastern China, in Liaoning and Heilongjiang, workers ate a raw vegetable salad for music breakfast, Lao Hukai. Julienned cucumber, long green pepper, cilantro, and dried tofu skin tossed in black vinegar, sesame oil, and garlic. Cold, raw, sharp. At 5 in the morning. I know how that sounds. But the workers who ate this before heading into the music steel mills and petrochemical plants of the Northeast said it woke them up better than anything hot could. The vinegar hit the stomach fast. Music. The garlic cleared the sinuses. The cilantro, and I understand not everyone has opinions about it, completed the whole experience. This is the breakfast of people. Music, who did physical work and needed their bodies actually awake, not just technically vertical. Nobody in their 20s is making Lao Hukai for breakfast now. Music. That is their loss. Number 15, Bing Tang Sifan. Rock sugar rice porridge, not savory, not salty, sweet congee. Water cooked down with white rice and pieces of yellow rock, music sugar, until the whole pot turned into a thin, gently sweet porridge that tasted like the cleanest thing imaginable. In Fujian and Zhejiang households in the 1980s, this was what you made when someone was sick, but it was also what you made when money was very short, when you needed to make the meal feel like a treat, even though it was not. The rock sugar cost almost nothing. The rice was already in the house. But in a bowl, with a little warmth and sweetness, it felt like your mother had made something special for you on purpose. That trick of turning the bare minimum into something that tasted intentional, that was the skill. That is what got lost because music, nobody needs to do it anymore, or they think they do not. Number 14, Shengjianbao, pan-fried soup dumplings. Shengjianbao existed in Shanghai before anyone alive today was born. But in the 1980s, the Shengjianbao ladies were the backbone music of the working-class morning. Cast-iron pans the size of wagon wheels sat over coal music stoves on the street. Hundreds of dumplings were arranged in concentric circles. The lid on, steam and oil working together until the bottoms were crispy and dark gold, and the tops were soft. Inside, each dumpling held a pocket of pork and gelatin broth that melted into liquid from the heat. You had to bite carefully, or the broth would go on your shirt and you would spend the rest of your shift explaining yourself. 2 or 3 Shengjianbao music and a cup of clear broth. That was your whole morning in Shanghai. Today, Shengjianbao appears in restaurants. They are photographed endlessly, and they are ordered on apps. The coal stove lady with the wagon wheel pan, the one who knew your face and had your order ready before you asked, she is not on any app. Number 13, zhajiang for breakfast. Noodles with fermented music soybean paste. Yes, noodles for breakfast. Northern Chinese workers ate noodles before sunrise without apology, and they were right to do so. Hand-pulled noodles or thin-dried noodles were boiled and topped with a sauce made from ground pork and dry-fried yellow soybean paste, jianmianjiang, then finished with julienned cucumber, bean sprouts, music, and a thread of garlic vinegar. The sauce had been in the pot since the night before. The noodles took 3 minutes in boiling water. Total breakfast time was under 10 minutes. Workers in Beijing Hutong households ate jjiangmian every single morning the way other cultures eat toast, without music thinking, without choice, and without complaint, because there was nothing to complain about. Music. It was exactly right. The idea of eating noodles for breakfast seems unusual until you eat them. Then it seems like the most sensible thing anyone has ever done. Number 12. Music, dufunao. Tofu flour with toppings. Silken tofu barely set. So soft music, it trembled when you looked at it. That was dufunao. Just the tofu on its own was an accomplishment. Making it required soaking dried music soybeans overnight, grinding them with water, boiling the soy milk, then adding a small amount of gypsum powder or nigari to set it into curds soft enough to eat with a spoon. Vendors in Sichuan topped it with a ladle of spicy broth, chili oil, music, preserved vegetables, and minced pork. Vendors in Beijing topped it with a savory gravy made from mushrooms, music, and dried shrimp. Same base ingredient, completely different breakfast depending on which province you woke up in. China is not one cuisine. China is 30 cuisines that happen to share a writing system. A bowl of dufunao in Chengdu and a bowl in Tianjin are both called the same thing and taste like they were made on different planets. Both are worth waking up before sunrise for. Number 11. Riganmian. Hot dry noodles from Wuhan. Wuhan has one of the most serious breakfast music cultures on Earth, and the center of it is riganmian. They are alkaline wheat noodles pre-cooked and coated in sesame oil, then flash cooked to order in boiling water. The noodles are tossed with sesame paste, soy sauce, garlic, music, pickled long beans, dried radish, and a stripe of chili oil. Eaten hot, eaten fast, eaten standing if necessary. In the 1980s, every Wuhan neighborhood had a riganmian window that opened before 5 and closed when the noodles ran out. Workers carried their own bowls from home, got them filled, and ate on the walk. Chen Shuying, the woman I mentioned at the beginning, music of this video, had a husband who ate riganmian 3 times a week on his way to the factory because the stand was on his route. He never once got tired of it. That is not a statement about habit. That is a statement about the quality of the noodles. Music number 10, youtiao wrapped in xiaobing, the breakfast sandwich of northern China. Take 1 xiaobing, a sesame flatbread baked in a clay oven layered with flaky pastry and coated in sesame music seeds. Split it open while still warm. Insert 1 piece of youtiao, the fried dough stick. Add a few pieces of marinated egg if the vendor had them. Music, fold it shut. That was the xiaobing youtiao, the street breakfast of Beijing, Tianjin, and Hebei province that workers ate on the move every single morning. Music. It is essentially a sandwich. Northern China invented the breakfast sandwich music before any fast food chain existed, and it has never received a single award for doing so. Music. The combination of crispy sesame bread and chewy oil-fried dough, that contrast of textures music, cost 5 fen in 1980. Today, it still exists in Beijing, but the clay oven vendors are fewer music every year. The ovens require skill to operate. The skill requires time to learn. The time music is not available. Number 9, baozi from the neighborhood steamer. Music-filled steamed buns. Not the restaurant bao with the delicate pleated top and the photographed interior. This is the neighborhood baozi. Big, rough-topped steamed buns that came out of a large bamboo steamer stacked 3 tiers high, music, outside a storefront that was more of a window than a room. Pork and cabbage, red, music, bean paste, sometimes just preserved vegetables and tofu. Workers bought 2 or 3 for the walk to the bus, ate them, music, from a paper bag, and arrived at work with their hands smelling of sesame oil and steamed music dough. A single baozi cost 4 or 5 fen. 3 of them cost less than a single bus ticket. In the 1980s, music, the neighborhood baozi window, was the most important piece of architecture on any working-class street. More important music than the bank. More reliable than the post office. The baozi man, music, never closed for public holidays. Nobody asked him to. Number 8. Congee with pickled mustard, music, greens, and peanuts. This is the one. This is Chen Shuying's breakfast. Music. This is the one from the beginning of the video. Baijiu was made the night before and reheated at 4 hours in the morning. Into the bowl went a spoonful, music, of zhakai, pickled Sichuan mustard stem, salty, crunchy, and a little sour. A small handful of dry roasted peanuts. Sometimes a drizzle of sesame oil if there was any left. The salt and crunch of the pickled vegetable music against the soft, neutral congee was not a compromise. It was a composition. Whoever figured this out centuries ago, music, understood something about how flavors work together that no culinary school teaches. The peanuts added fat and protein. The zhakai added sodium and music acid. The congee was the base. The whole bowl cost less than music 2 fen and produced a family of 5 who were ready to work and study for 6 hours. Write that down. 2 fen, 6 hours. Number 7. Music, jidanbing, egg crepe. A thin batter of flour and water is spread onto a music flat griddle with a wooden paddle. 1 egg is cracked and smeared across the surface. Then a stripe of sweet bean paste and a stripe of chili sauce. Music. A sprinkle of sesame and dried scallion, and a piece of crispy wonton wrapper pressed music on top. The whole thing is folded into a package the size of your hand. The Jidan Bing vendor was the most efficient operation on any street corner in Tianjin. From raw materials to finished breakfast, 90 seconds flat. Workers lined up 10 deep starting at 4:30, and by 5:30 the vendor had cleared the queue and made enough to cover the rent. Music. 1 jidan bing cost 8 fen and was completely sufficient for a morning of physical work. Tianjin still has jidan bing vendors. They are considered a cultural treasure now. In the 1980s, they were just called breakfast. Number 6. Music, mian hutang, flour paste soup. Most people outside of Shanxi province have never heard of mian hutang. It is a soup made from wheat starch dissolved in cold water and poured in a thin stream into boiling broth, stirring constantly to create long strands of music, irregular wheat paste. Into the soup went tofu skin, wood ear mushroom, glass music noodles, and julienne chicken or pork if it was available. The result music was a thick, starchy, almost glutinous soup that stuck to your ribs like plaster sticks, music, to a wall. In Xi'an and the surrounding villages in the 1980s, workers ate mian hutang before dawn shifts because nothing else available at that price, music, held in the stomach for as long. The wheat paste was the engineering. The rest, music, was flavor. A bowl at a street stall cost 6 fen. That bowl, music, was still working 4 hours later when the shift was halfway done. Efficient food is not glamorous food. But efficient food, music, is the reason people survived. Number 5. Hulutu. Bone and organ soup with bread. From Xi'an. A broth made by simmering pork or beef bones for hours, music, with organ trimmings the butcher could not sell at full price. The broth turned white and rich from the collagen. Then you tore mo, a dense unleavened flatbread, into thumbnail-size pieces, music, directly into the bowl and poured the hot broth over it. The bread swelled into music, something between a dumpling and a sponge. Workers ate this before 5 in the morning at stalls documented back over a music 1,000 years. A bowl cost 12 fen in 1983. Sit with that for a moment. Number 4. Music chaoliangfen, stir-fried cold jelly noodles. In Sichuan and Yunnan provinces, liangfen music was made from starch, usually mung bean or pea starch. Music dissolved in water and set into a cool, translucent, slightly firm jelly. You cut it into thick strips, and music ate it cold with chili oil in the summer. But in the morning, in winter, workers in Chengdu stir-fried music, the strips in a hot wok with garlic, pickled chilies, dubanjiang, the fermented broad bean paste, music, that is the soul of Sichuan cooking, soy sauce, and green onion. The liangfen soaked up the sauce, music, and the heat, and became something entirely different from its cold summer music version. Dense, chewy, fragrant with chili and garlic. Spicy music, enough to open your eyes completely at 4:30 in the morning, regardless of how late you had been awake the night before. The wok vendor had coal burning under the iron at 4 in the morning. You could see the smoke from the end of the alley. That smoke was a signal. Music. Follow it and you would eat. Number 3. Fueling jiabing. Fueling sesame crisp wafer. A paper-thin cracker made from water chestnut starch and sesame seeds, pressed to the thickness of paper, baked until it barely held together. It shattered music when you bit it. Between two of these crackers went a thin spread of walnut paste and pine nut filling. Music. The whole thing was so fragile it had to be wrapped in paper immediately and eaten before it could break. In Beijing, fueling jiabing was made by only a handful of small shops in the Hutong neighborhoods in the 1980s. It had been a court food in the Qing dynasty. Music originally made as medicine for digestive problems. Workers ate it as a morning snack because it was light and energizing. Music, and the shops near Drum Tower opened before 6 sao. A packet of 4 cost about 15 fen. By 1995, mass production had arrived, and the factory version replaced the handmade shops almost completely. The handmade cracker shattered. The factory cracker music bent. That is the whole story. When your food stops breaking the way it should, something has already been lost. Number 2. Tang yuan for breakfast. Music. Sweet rice dumplings in ginger broth. Most people know tang yuan from the Lantern Festival. What people do not know is that in Fujian and Zhejiang, workers ate them for breakfast on ordinary mornings because the ginger broth warmed the body from the inside in a way nothing else replicated. The ginger hit the chest first, the sesame paste came second, and the glutinous rice stayed with you through the morning. Mothers made a batch on Sunday evening and reheated it through the week. A bowl of 8 cost less than 10 fen. Music. They tasted like a celebration even on a Tuesday. Number 1. Lamian with bone broth. Hand-pulled noodles before sunrise in Lanzhou. In Lanzhou, Music, Gansu province, the Lamian master was awake before 3 in the morning every day for 20 years. The beef bones were already simmering since the night before in a clear broth seasoned with over 20 spices. By 4:30, the dough had been worked and rested until he could pull it through the air into 64 music strands of uniform noodle by hand. Into the bowl went the noodles, the amber broth, 2 thin slices of braised music beef, a radish slice, and a stripe of chili oil if you wanted it. One bowl cost 15 fen in 1983. The man had trained 5 years to learn music, the pull. That knowledge lived in the muscles of his forearms and in the memory of 10,000 bowls. He knew the same customers for 30 years who took their noodles thin and who took them thick. He was the first human being most workers encountered before the city woke up. That man is not in music any official record. He was just there, feeding everyone who came to him in the dark. That is what music breakfast meant in the 1980s in China. Someone woke up before you did to make sure you ate. Make one of these this week, just one. Buy a bag of glutinous music rice and make sifantuan on a Saturday morning. Buy some dried peanuts and a jar of jakai and make Chen Shuying's music congee. It costs less than a coffee. It takes 15 minutes. Do not look at a recipe on your phone. Call your grandmother or your mother or the oldest person in your family who spent time in a kitchen music in China before 1990. Ask them what they ate before work. Ask them what the vendor on the corner was selling. Ask them music what the first thing they smelled was when they woke up. Write it down, music, when they tell you, because those recipes are not in any book. They are in the memory of people. Music, who are getting older every year and who did not think what they made was worth music remembering. They were wrong. It is worth everything. Sit down at the table, use a real bowl. Eat slowly because these breakfasts, music, were never just about the food. They were about the person who got up before you did to make it. They were about the vendor who was there every morning without fail. They were about showing up for your own body before the world asked anything of you. Tell me in the comments which of these 25 your family still makes.